If you're watching this channel, it's because you don't enjoy watching the world squander what Christendom built, but you want to do your part. And chances are you've heard me mention a great means by doing just that. Email made by and for Catholics. Check out fidei.email. That's FIDEI.email. Built for Catholic individuals, families, organizations, and groups. They're private, secure, and of course, they're Catholic. And they're offering 2 months off on your first year for an annual subscription if you enter the coupon code Return to Tradition without spaces. That's the name of this channel, without spaces, at checkout. Once in a while, the Vatican likes to dangle a little bait in front of people to get them talking, and I frankly think to distract everybody from what's going on. And I'm not necessarily against taking the bait. Instead, I'm going to take the bait and show you exactly what it is they're doing here, which is to distract you. Got a little nugget of news here for you that drops on practically the eve of the Synod on Synodality. Voices at the Synod have openly said, we are here to craft a new church, a synodal church. It's a new beginning for the church. The church is going to be unencumbered by what has been. We've heard all this stuff. They say it repeatedly. Maybe we should believe them. When they tell us that the ecclesiology, the theology of the church, from before the 1960s, is not compatible with the ecclesiology of the church today. Ecclesiology being a word meaning the theology of the church. The theology of what the church is and what its relationship to the world is and what the church's mission in the world is. The same ecclesiology from essentially the apostolic times that organically developed until about the 1960s is no longer apparently compatible with the church after the 1960s, especially today. And so the Synod on Synodality, they tell us, is meant to finish the job of making a new synodal church, which is a church that listens and dialogues and walks with people and doesn't judge people, and most importantly, doesn't call people to conversion. I don't know what religion it is, but it's not Catholic, no matter what they tell you. This little bit of news that they dropped on us is this. Pope Francis hints again that he might visit Argentina. How many times have we heard of that in the last 5 years? 3 or 4 at least. Every year he hints that he might go. Argentina has a new president, one who was very combative with Pope Francis. Did not like him, openly said as much on the campaign trail there. And what did he say after he came into office? He kind of put all that aside and invited Francis to come visit him. That was the last time. And Francis said, I might come and visit in 2024. Well, 2024 is now practically over. He's not traveling to Argentina this year. So now we have another story about this, because this comes up every other year. And this is important because for whatever reason, Pope Francis is the only pope in the post-conciliar period, in a time when popes became globetrotters. He is the only one not to go home, to visit his homeland. John Paul II rather famously was given a pope's welcome in Poland when he visited. I was going to say a king's welcome, but no, a pope's welcome. He was treated as a superstar when he went there. Benedict visited Germany. He was treated pretty well too, except for the whole Regensburg Address thing when he told the truth about some very unpopular topics in 2006 in Germany. But they visited their home countries, were treated wonderfully when they arrived, but Pope Francis has not. And if you know anything about his history there, you might understand why he's avoided visiting. Let's take a look at the story. So the headline from Peripheral: Pope Francis could visit Cordoba in 2025. He said this expressly, so the people of Cordoba can feel happy that the Pope has them in his thoughts to visit them, confirmed the CGT spokesman, Jorge Sola. All right, so here's the deal. If he's going to visit one part of Argentina, he's going to visit multiple places. But you'll notice in the tone of this that he says he's thinking about visiting. And you can tell that the spokesman for the organization who spoke to Francis about this, you can tell he kind of doesn't believe Francis is going to visit either. Listen to how he phrases this. It's from the article, quote, Pope Francis could visit the city of Cordoba in 2025, according to Jorge Sola, press secretary of the CGT. Among all the things we talked about, one of the things we asked him to do was try to get him to come to the country to send his message of brotherhood. I have confirmed to us that it is his wish that this year is complicated due to his schedule, but that next year could be one of the possibilities to organize, said the union leader. Sola was part of the delegation of the General Confederation of Labor that was received yesterday by the Supreme Pontiff in the library of the Apostolic Palace of the Vatican. He was interested in visiting some very important places in Argentina, not only the federal capital, but also the possibility of the mother of cities, Santiago del Estero. And yes, of course, he mentioned the city of Cordoba, and some that could be in Patagonia, he added in statements to Mitre Cordoba. He said this expressly, so the people of Cordoba can feel happy that the Pope has him in his thoughts to visit them, Sola said. I would like to go. It is my town. But it has not been decided. First, several things need to be resolved, the Pope said a few days ago in a conversation with the press on the flight back to Rome after his tour of Asia and Oceania. Jorge Bergoglio spent 2 years in Cordoba between 1958 and 1960 when he was a Jesuit novice, and between 1990 and 1992 when he lived in the Jesuit residence in the capital of Cordoba. End quote. So they float this idea every couple of years because Francis is, again, the first pope to not visit his homeland since the Pope or the Church started choosing men to be pope who weren't Italian, which is a relatively new phenomenon in the modern world, meaning John Paul II and on. And yes, before this, there had been non-Italian popes, but it's the first time in a very, 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 very long time before John Paul II became pope. Before him, it had been like hundreds of years since there had been a non-Italian pope. Now, people might quibble with what I said because Jorge Bergoglio, Pope Francis, his family are Italian, but they moved to Argentina back in like the 50s or the 40s. So he's Argentinian, at least culturally, more than anything else. But John Paul II and Benedict XVI famously visited their home countries. John Paul II visited Poland twice, if I'm not mistaken, or more than that. But not Francis. And he's now allegedly been the Pope now for, 11 years? And he hasn't gone to Argentina once? It's some kind of weird thing there. If you've ever read this book here, on my shoulder, that would be the book The Great Reformer by professional fan fiction writer Austin Ivray, who is the papal biographer of Pope Francis, or at least one of them, in the English language. The author of that book, Austin Ivray, has got some rather nasty hobbies, including reporting his local TLM parish for not following the letter of Traditionis Custodes to the very T and getting them shut down. He's a kind of a character known for that in his country, which is England. But he wrote this book, and there's multiple versions of it out there now. The first edition details Jorge Mario Bergoglio in all of his glory, going all the way up from the time when he was merely a Jesuit novice to becoming a priest, becoming the Cardinal Archbishop of Buenos Aires, and his role with the military government of Argentina. And when you read that section in the first edition, you get a very good reason and very good understanding of why he doesn't go back, because he's not popular, because he was complicit in the things the government did at that time. It's all spelled out in there in some very kind of glowing and sad-sounding language, but it's there for you to see. And it's telling that the future editions of the book, The Great Reformer, don't have those things in it. They gloss over that. A lot of it was edited out. Why? Because it told the truth a little too well. If you can find a first edition of the book, I would suggest getting one. They're hard to come by these days, partially because I keep recommending people read it, at least that section, so you understand what it is we're dealing with. Let me know in the comments if you've read that book and that section, and if you understand what it is we're dealing with here. Leave some details in the comments, please. But what do you think? Do you think that Francis will finally go visit Argentina? Do you think that he's afraid for no good reason, that nobody would dare go to, try to do something to the man the world sees as Pope in his own country, nonetheless? That he would get welcome there, maybe it wouldn't be the most glowing welcome, but he'd be able to go to Cordoba and other places? Or do you think there's a very good reason he doesn't go, and that he is, frankly, just gaslighting the people in Cordoba that he might visit? Let me know in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So to sharing this on social media, that helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.